Daniel's 7 keys to identifying the Antichrist. Hidden deep within the pages of the Bible lies a crucial secret. Within Daniel's visions lurks a warning. Daniel didn't just see empires rise and fall. He saw the Antichrist. One man, a leader who will come with power, charisma, and deception. Daniel called him the Little Horn, leaving 7 keys behind to recognize him when he appears. 7 unmistakable signs to identify the Antichrist and avoid being deceived. What are these 7 signs? Was Daniel describing the new pope, or was he referring to a hidden leader who is already among us? Some believe that Daniel saw future times. Others believe that the words sealed for centuries are about to be fulfilled. Now it's your turn to decide if you want to look the other way or open your eyes. Before becoming a prophet, before receiving dreams that would shake history, Daniel was a prisoner. It all began in Jerusalem. Daniel was an intelligent young man, handsome and descended from nobility. He had a promising future, but a shadow fell over the holy city. The army of Babylon, the greatest empire of its time, was coming to stake claim to what it deemed its own. The city gates were shattered. Nebuchadnezzar's soldiers spared neither temples nor altars nor families. The kingdom of Judah fell, and its most gifted youths were chosen not to die, but to be re-educated, molded, remade as servants for the empire. Daniel was one of them. Taken far from home to Babylon, he was given a new name and offered all the luxuries of a palace. Lavish banquets, fine clothing, a new language and a foreign culture. But Daniel never forgot who he was. While others gave in, Daniel refused to defile himself by eating the king's food, and God protected him and blessed him. Soon he rose above all the wise men of Babylon. God gave him knowledge, wisdom, and something more, the gift to interpret dreams. Then came his first great test. King Nebuchadnezzar had a troubling dream and demanded someone interpret it without even hearing the details. Everyone failed, everyone except Daniel. Not only did Daniel reveal the dream, he explained its meaning and spoke boldly to the king. From that day on, Daniel was no ordinary captive. He became a trusted advisor, the wisest among the wise, a Hebrew in enemy territory who could not be pulled down. But the years went by. Daniel served under several kings. He saw proud Nebuchadnezzar humbled by God. He witnessed Belshazzar mock the Most High and perish that very night. Then came another empire, the Persians. Yet through it all, Daniel remained firm, upright, loyal. When they tried to destroy him, they accused him for praying to his God and cast him into the den of lions. But he survived. God protected him. As the years passed, Daniel faced trials, and he overcame everyone. Only then did God reveal to him what no one else could see. Daniel never asked to glimpse the future. He didn't seek glory, visions, or prophetic titles, but God chose him. It was then that the visions began. These were not ordinary dreams. God opened a window in heaven and showed him what was to come. Divine revelations about future kingdoms, global wars, and a sinister figure that would rise to deceive the world, the Little Horn, the Antichrist. First key, he will arise from Europe. The first important clue Daniel gives us about recognizing the Antichrist isn't about his personality or the words he says. It is about his origin, where he will emerge from. Daniel saw 4 beasts rise from the sea, each representing an empire destined to shape history. But the 4th beast is by far the most terrifying. Daniel said, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the 4 winds of heaven churning up the great sea. 4 great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. The first was like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it." Before Daniel saw the Little Horn, he first witnessed a sequence, a chain of empires rising and falling, a progression of power that would shape the course of human history itself. The lion with wings symbolizes the Babylonian Empire, and in the subsequent verses, he reveals 2 more powerful empires. And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, "Get up and eat your fill of flesh." After that I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. The hunched bear symbolizes the Medo-Persian Empire, and the winged, 4-headed leopard points to the Greek Empire. But then came a 4th beast. The angel beside Daniel revealed that this 4th beast represented a 4th kingdom upon the earth, one utterly unique from all the previous ones, and one which would devour the entire world. We read, "After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. This 4th beast represents the Roman Empire, an empire unlike any before it, an empire that did not merely conquer, it shattered and destroyed. Daniel makes this abundantly clear. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. Rome was the empire that crucified Jesus. It was the empire that destroyed Jerusalem, an empire that dominated with unmatched power. Yet one day it fell, or perhaps it never really did. Because Daniel saw something else. He saw that this beast never completely vanished. And in the following verse, we discover the first clue about the Antichrist. It reads, "While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them. This is the Antichrist." Daniel clearly saw him. The little horn symbolizes the Antichrist himself. He doesn't arise randomly from an unknown place. He springs directly from the 4th Empire. He won't be an outsider, a leader unrelated to the current system. He won't emerge from outside forces, but from within, from existing structures, alliances, and powers built upon the ruins of the ancient Roman Empire. And although the Roman Empire as a formal political entity collapsed centuries ago, it remains alive. Rome wasn't replaced, it was fragmented, giving birth to modern Europe. Its laws still shape our courts, its symbols remain embedded in modern politics, its values permeate global institutions. And most significantly, Rome's religious influence endures within one of the largest spiritual systems in the world, the Church. The Vatican is the only institution that has endured since the days of the Roman Empire. That's why many look to the papacy, which emerged from Rome and has remained a global religious figure. This institution could play a key role in the final revelation of the Antichrist. This detail is essential. The Antichrist won't appear as an outsider, but will rise as an heir, a product of the very system he will corrupt completely. Could it be the new Pope? Daniel didn't simply see the rise of a political figure. He saw a transformation from within, an authority that seemed legitimate at first, emerging from the established order itself, until it began devouring everything around it. But the most disturbing detail is what comes next. Daniel saw a 10-horned beast making way for a new power, a force that would rise up from within. We read, "The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will arise, different from the earlier ones. A powerful figure who will emerge from within a coalition of European nations." Daniel saw an alliance of 10 kingdoms, the 10 horns, and a mighty figure rising from within them. These 10 kingdoms might represent political entities such as the European Union or NATO. That is why many Bible interpreters agree this is the first important clue to identifying him. The Antichrist will emerge from Europe. Second clue, he will overthrow 3 leaders. The vision continues. "While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it." The second key that Daniel gives us to identify the Antichrist is direct and brutal. He will depose 3 kings. Daniel had observed the 10 horns representing 10 kings or nations. Then suddenly another horn appeared, small and seemingly harmless. But that's only a facade, because the moment it appears, 3 of the horns fall. This means that when the Antichrist rises to power, he will remove 3 of those 10 kings. But he won't do it through war. He'll do it through cunning, through secret alliances, covert betrayals, diplomatic pressures. It will be a quiet coup, yet devastating. Daniel makes this very clear. The 3 horns fall before him, and before isn't an idle detail. It means he directly causes their downfall. He dethrones them, displaces them, removes those who stand in his way. This is precisely the hallmark of a power-hungry leader, someone who enters the scene as an equal, but soon transforms the whole system from within. And here is where many eyes turn toward the Vatican. Why? Because if the Antichrist must emerge from Rome's legacy, and if he must ascend by removing other leaders, then one question inevitably arises. Could this prophecy point toward the next pope? Today, the Vatican is not merely the heart of the Catholic faith. It's also a political entity with sovereign state status, diplomatic influence, global moral authority, and international representation. And after the Pope's death, a conclave is called, a secretive gathering where cardinals from all over the world, the horns of the Church's power structure, meet to elect a new leader. In Daniel chapter 7, we read, "The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will arise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings." In this scenario, the 3 kings uprooted by the little horn could perhaps represent 3 prominent power figures from within the global religious or political establishment. Could they be 3 cardinals who stand in the way? 3 conservative church leaders? Whatever the case may be, removing these 3 leaders will mark a turning point, a decision disguised as an internal shakeup, yet actually opening the door to complete control. Then, the whole world will see this new pope, or perhaps a new European leader, as a reformer, a visionary, a peacemaker. But Daniel saw him clearly centuries ago, a little horn uprooting 3 others and exalting itself above the rest. He won't be a brute dictator, but rather an elegant, brilliant, spiritually appealing figure, likely cloaked in holiness. That's why this second key is crucial. When you see 3 leaders fall within a world coalition, especially a European one, and a new face rising, remember Daniel's words. Third key. He has the eyes of a man and speaks boastful words. In Daniel's visions, the little horn is not an abstract figure. It has eyes and a mouth. It watches, speaks, judges, and manipulates. We read, "This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully." Eyes in the Bible symbolize vision, insight, and discernment. But these are not the eyes of a prophet, nor those of a wise man. They're human eyes, all too human, full of cunning and calculation, watchfulness and deceit. This leader will be seen as one of us, approachable, charismatic, and captivating. Someone whose eyes reach deep, who understands our emotions, reads the crowds, and manipulates with a smile. He'll have charm and feigned compassion. He'll speak of peace, unity, and reconciliation. But behind his eyes lies a hidden agenda. And he doesn't only watch, he speaks. Daniel emphasizes this twice. "And concerning the 10 horns upon its head and the other horn that rose up, which had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastful words and appeared greater than its companions." In the original Hebrew, the phrase boastful words doesn't merely refer to lengthy or elaborate speeches, but rather arrogant, proud, and haughty pronouncements. The Antichrist won't just be a political figure. He will be a compelling speaker, a master of language who inspires entire crowds. He will persuade even the wisest, deceiving the very faithful themselves. He will speak of peace, of unity, of a new order free from divisions and conflicts. Yet he will speak from a place of ultimate pride, exalting himself as though he were a savior. But Daniel adds a crucial detail, often overlooked, "and appeared greater than its companions." Here, the text hints at how this leader will be perceived. It's not just that he speaks louder, it's that he will appear superior. His public image will elevate him above all other leaders. Although he emerges among 10 others, he will stand out as the dominant figure, not necessarily because he possesses more legal authority, but rather because the entire world will perceive him as the greatest, the wisest, the fairest, the most evolved. And this inevitably leads us to a global figure who at this moment remains undefined, the next Pope. Today, the Pope is not merely the leader of the Catholic Church. He is also a geopolitical player and moral authority. Yet Daniel warns us of something more. He will speak against the Most High. Here, Daniel cautions us that the Antichrist will not only demonstrate arrogance, but will use his speech to supplant God himself. He will speak as if he were a savior, yet deny the true savior. His mouth will proclaim not just grandiose visions, but subtle blasphemies. He will attack God's character, authority, and identity. And most disturbingly, he will do all this in the name of goodness. This figure will not appear as an enemy of faith, but rather as its reformer. He will claim he has come to correct ancient errors and reinterpret the truth in light of a new humanity. This is the essence of the Antichrist's blasphemy, speaking against God while using the very language of religion. He will speak against God even as he claims to speak for God, and the multitudes will cheer him on. Many theologians see a direct connection to the beast described in the end times. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, and it opened its mouth to blaspheme God. This is precisely why the third key is so dangerous. The Antichrist will charm the world with captivating words. He will defy divine principles and redefine truth, and he will do it so skillfully that many will view him as a prophet, or worse yet, a Messiah. Fourth key, he deceives through a false peace. The Antichrist will not arrive as many have imagined. He won't seize control of the world by armies or warfare. He will come with a smile and with a promise that a desperate world longs to hear, peace, but it will be a counterfeit peace. Daniel saw it clearly. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many. This one word, cunning, reveals his true weapon, manipulation. A charismatic figure rising to power through craftiness and carefully measured words. A leader whose main weapon will not be force but language. This leader will know exactly what to say, when to say it, and whom to say it to. He will expertly tailor his message for every listener. A deception so sophisticated, so enticing, so urgently needed in chaotic times that kings will sign on to it, nations will worship him, and churches will bless him. It will be worldwide peace, an alliance of religions, an international pact aimed at ending historical conflicts, a solution that the entire world will celebrate with tears of joy. But at the core of this peace, there will be poison, because Daniel also reveals to us that this leader will destroy many without warning. In other words, he will act unexpectedly under the disguise of security. It will be a carefully crafted deception. His power won't rely as much on his strength, but rather on his ability to charm the masses. Daniel foresaw him, a figure whose cunning will cause deceit to flourish, not through chaos, but through what seems to be order, progress, unity. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. This week represents 7 prophetic years. And that covenant with many has been interpreted by scholars as a political, spiritual, or even religious agreement, marking the beginning of the final stage in human history. It will be a peace treaty, or perhaps a reconciliation pact, a global alliance seen as the ultimate answer to conflicts, possibly involving Israel and the other major world religions. It will mark the culmination of a false global hope, a treaty that seems to open the doors to an era of worldwide harmony, yet in reality will seal the gateway to the abyss. Wars will begin to cease, and governments everywhere will celebrate newfound peace. But it will all be an illusion, an intricately staged mirage. Daniel does not say he'll seize control by force. He indicates instead that he will confirm a covenant with many. Thessalonians gives us a similar warning. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly. Many believe this false peace will not only be political, but spiritual as well. For this reason, some suspect the future leader of the Catholic Church may hold a pivotal role in validating this treaty. A pope who preaches unity of all faiths, who proposes a church without walls, promoting a new universal spiritual covenant. If this happens, and if the political figure of the Antichrist leans upon this religious structure, the false peace will then be sealed, and the whole world will fall into deception. But at that very moment, the Antichrist will show his true face. The covenant will shatter, and persecution will begin, and what seemed like peace will become a storm. This is the fourth key. The Antichrist will not conquer through violence. He will conquer through hope. He will be the man of peace, the unifier, the false savior. And when he has the whole world at his feet, when no one dares question him, that is when he will suddenly destroy many without warning. Fifth key, he will persecute the saints of the Most High. Until now, we've learned that the Antichrist emerges from the fourth kingdom, uproots 3 rulers to seize control, has the eyes of a man, speaks arrogant and blasphemous words, and deceives through false peace. But now, in this fifth key, Daniel reveals something even darker. He will persecute the saints. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them. Here, Daniel's prophetic message becomes clear and direct. The little horn, the Antichrist, not only speaks against God, but wages war against his people, against the saints, the faithful, and all those who refuse to bow down to him. The Antichrist will not merely deny God with words. He will seek to silence God's representatives in a spiritual war openly declared against his chosen people. Daniel saw him clearly in a vision at night, a powerful figure with human eyes and an arrogant mouth, waging war against the saints. But most chilling is what he says next, and he was defeating them. This brings a troubling realization. For a period of time, the Antichrist will prevail. He will possess power and influence, able to humble, oppress, and break the children of God. Not because God is weak, but because this momentary defeat is required as judgment, refinement, and fulfillment of prophecy, a temporary setback for the faithful before the final dawn. Daniel repeats this, describing it as persecution. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people. Daniel states that this horn will wear out the saints. The Hebrew word used for wear out implies gradual erosion, ongoing pressure, exhaustion. The persecution of the Antichrist won't begin with whips and chains. It won't initially require imprisoning every believer or filling colosseums with martyrs. Instead, it will rely on something far more subtle, reducing believers to second-class citizens, not because of what they do, but because of what they believe. The system will know precisely how to silence them without making them martyrs, forbidding them from speaking publicly, marginalizing their voices, pushing them far from the center of discourse. Their messages will be censored on digital platforms, labeled as misinformation, hate speech, or regressive narratives. Believers who refuse to yield will be portrayed as intolerant radicals standing against progress, enemies of love, pluralism, and the common good. Gradually, they will lose access to essential positions within society. They will be barred from certain professions, especially in the media, education, medicine, and politics, for endangering diversity. The laws used against them will carry titles such as protective measures or anti-hate legislation. But behind these names, their true goal will be clear: to silence God's people, and the world will applaud it. For the Antichrist will not arrive as a tyrant, but as a peacemaker. Yet, in the name of peace, he will overturn the truth. Believers will face marginalization, ridicule, and even condemnation for remaining loyal to God's word. A global system marked by hostility and persecution will arise, making life unbearable for those who stay faithful to God. Furthermore, Revelation 13:7 repeats the vision Daniel saw. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. What kind of leader would the world allow to persecute true Christians? One who does it in the name of love. One who presents himself not as God's enemy, but as his agent of renewal. And here, once again, the figure of the next pope steps onto the stage. If the Antichrist is going to hold moral and religious authority, if he's going to speak in God's name, even as he rebels against him, and wield global influence and power to reshape laws, then the coming spiritual leader in Rome could be that person, or at least his enabler. Yet this Antichrist's victory will be brief. not eternal. Daniel makes this abundantly clear later on. Judgment is coming, and the kingdom shall be handed over to the saints. But before then, they must endure, in silence, under persecution and isolation. This is the fifth key. The Antichrist won't just defy God with his words, he will actively persecute those who belong to God. Sixth key. He will attempt to alter times and laws. After Daniel reveals that the little horn will speak against God and persecute the saints, he points out an even deeper act of rebellion and try to change the set times and the laws. The Antichrist will attempt to rewrite the divine framework of time and morality, altering what God himself established as eternal. What does it mean to change times? In the Bible, times doesn't only refer to calendars or dates. Rather, it indicates the sacred cycles established by God, holy feasts, appointed days, prophetic seasons, and the divine order of spiritual time. From the Sabbath and Passover to the Feast of Trumpets, God designed a spiritual calendar reflecting his plan and covenant. To change these times means to redefine God's prophetic calendar, erase the meaning of sacred days, and disconnect humanity from the divine rhythm God has established. The Antichrist will seek to erase this relationship with God's appointed timing and instead introduce a new secular, inclusive, universal system. This will not happen through violence. It will occur through language. They will say we need to unify the sacred times of all cultures, claiming that the old divisions separate us and calling us to embrace a new global spirituality. But the truth is, this will destroy God's holy times. People will speak of a new calendar for humanity, blending all religions and cultures into shared festivities. Festivities where Christ is no longer central, but merely one symbol among many. Instead of the Son of God, Christ will be portrayed only as a respected teacher, a guide, a prophet, celebrating his birth not as the incarnation of the eternal Word, but as an example of enlightened awareness. His death and resurrection will no longer be proclaimed as the cornerstone of God's plan of salvation, but reduced to metaphors for collective renewal. Perhaps Easter will become the festival of the new cycle, or Advent replaced by the week of light. Maybe even the Lord's Day will be rebranded as the Day of Balance. Step by step, the rhythm of time will cease to revolve around the gospel, and instead will revolve around humanity itself. A generation that sought to reshape times and forgot the God who first established them. And what exactly does changing the law mean? The Hebrew word used here is Torah, the law of God, his instruction, his moral will. It's not about altering civil laws, it's far more serious. It's an attempt to rewrite what God himself declared as good and what is evil. Changing the law means declaring that sin is no longer sin. It means establishing a new global ethic where humanity proclaims as virtue what God called abomination. It means redefining marriage, identity, truth, justice, family, worship, everything. And if, as we've seen, the Antichrist holds spiritual authority, then he will speak as a religious leader, not from a parliament, but from a pulpit, not as a politician, but as a prophet. This is the sixth key. The Antichrist will not merely come to rule, but to rewrite the will of God, to erase sacred times, to alter eternal laws, and to raise up a new spiritual order, one in which God no longer has the final word. He won't need to imprison every believer. Turning them into second-class citizens will be enough. Prohibiting them from speaking publicly, censoring their messages on digital platforms, labeling them intolerant or extremist, and persecuting them through hate laws disguised as protective measures. And when this happens, millions will celebrate. They will say humanity has finally evolved, that we've moved beyond dogma and left behind what they call ignorance and darkness. But heaven knows the truth. It's a rebellion in disguise, a plot to overthrow the Creator from his very own altar. Seventh key, he will reign for 3.5 years. Daniel doesn't just describe what the Antichrist will be like, he also reveals precisely how long his absolute authority will last. After speaking of his blasphemies, his persecution of the saints, and his attempt to rewrite the seasons and divine law, Daniel closes this series of revelations with a clear measure. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times, and half a time. The word times means 2 years. A time is 1 year, and half a time is 6 months. In total, 3.5 years. A final period, the heart of the Great Tribulation, when the Antichrist will have absolute power and face no visible human opposition. The saints will be oppressed. The global system will worship him, and the world will regard him as the wisest, most righteous, and most needed man who ever lived. This same period appears again with explicit numerical precision in the book of Revelation. There, the Apostle John describes the beast, symbolizing the Antichrist, granted absolute power for a limited span of time. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. 42 months equals 3.5 years. This is no coincidence. It's a confirmation, the same length of time expressed differently. Centuries after Daniel, John describes the same prophetic scenario. An arrogant figure who speaks against God, persecutes the saints, rules for a limited time, and ultimately faces judgment. But there's something even more revealing. In chapter 9 of the book of Daniel, as he was fasting and praying for Jerusalem's restoration, the angel Gabriel appeared with a message that would alter the path of prophetic history forever. God revealed to Daniel a timeline, a precise countdown, 70 weeks. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city. But these aren't ordinary weeks of 7 days. They're prophetic weeks, each representing 7 years. In other words, 70 periods of 7 years each, totaling 490 prophetic years. Gabriel explained that these weeks were established to accomplish 6 specific things: to finish transgression, end sin, atone for wickedness, bring in everlasting righteousness, seal up vision and prophecy, and anoint the most holy. A divine plan with a prophetic timetable. From the time the command goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince comes, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. That adds up to 69 weeks, or 483 prophetic years, and they were fulfilled perfectly. And after the 62 weeks, the Messiah shall be cut off. From the decree of Artaxerxes around the year 457 BC until Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, exactly 483 years later, prophecy unfolded precisely. Jesus was rejected, arrested, and crucified. With the death of the Messiah, God's prophetic timepiece stopped. A pause began, a new season of grace, the era of the church. Throughout this age, the gospel has been preached to all nations. Gentiles have been grafted into God's spiritual olive tree, and humanity has had the chance to reconcile with God. Yet this pause won't last forever. Soon, the prophetic clock will restart, and when it does, the final week, the 70th week, will begin. These will be the final 7 prophetic years of human history, foretold clearly in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. The prophetic clock, paused from the moment Messiah was crucified, will soon resume ticking, and precisely as it restarts, a key figure emerges on the world stage: the coming prince, the little horn, the Antichrist. But he will not come with violence. He will come through agreements, through diplomacy, confirming a covenant with many. The text does not say he will create a new covenant, but rather confirm one, suggesting there is already a foundation, a promise, an expectation, likely involving Israel and religious and political leaders eager for peace, security, and rebuilding. This covenant will be celebrated throughout the world. The media will label it the deal of the century. Religious leaders will herald it as a sign of spiritual unity, and for a brief moment, it will seem as if the chaos has finally ended. As a result, the Antichrist will reign distinctly for 3.5 years through confusion, empty agreements, and diplomatic deception. But then, after 3.5 years, the veil will fall. The Antichrist will reveal his true identity. He will break the covenant, betray those who trusted him, and put an end to the sacrifice. This marks the beginning of the great tribulation spoken of by Jesus in Matthew 24. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. And this will occur during the second half of Daniel's 70th week. At that time, the little horn, the Antichrist, will speak against the Most High, oppress the saints, set his own laws, alter the times, and for a brief moment seem unstoppable. This has led many interpreters to believe that by then, the temple in Jerusalem will have been rebuilt and the sacrifices restored according to ancient tradition, a development with tremendous theological, political, and prophetic significance. But this restoration will be short-lived, for the Antichrist will soon put an end to the sacrifices, not out of reverence toward God, but as an act of usurpation. He will seat himself in the holy place. He will declare himself God. This is what Jesus called the abomination of desolation, and what Paul described in Thessalonians. He takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as God. But his reign is on a clock, his power is limited, his time is measured by God. And when that appointed hour arrives, heaven will step in and the beast will fall. Daniel doesn't share this information merely as revelation. He shares it as hope. Because yes, the Antichrist will come. He will wield great power, silence the saints, and rise above the nations. But his days are numbered. Now that we know Daniel's 7 keys, it's time to discover if the new Pope, Robert Francis Prevost, now known as Leo XIV, fulfills them. The first prophetic sign revealed by Daniel about the Antichrist is clear and compelling. He will emerge from the fourth kingdom. This fourth kingdom, as we've seen, was Rome, an empire that seemed to have fallen, but whose roots remain alive. Does the new Pope, Leo XIV, meet this condition? Robert Francis Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, was born on September 14, 1955, in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. At first glance, it appears his origin doesn't fulfill this clue, until we take a closer look. His father, Louis Marius, was of French and Italian descent and served in the United States Navy during World War II, and his mother, Mildred Martinez, was of Spanish heritage. Thus, although Robert Prevost was born in the United States, his family heritage is deeply rooted in Europe, particularly in France, Italy, and Spain. Moreover, his spiritual, academic, and religious identity has always been strongly tied to Europe. From an early age, Prevost was sent to receive education within institutions closely connected to the Church of Rome. Later on, he returned to Europe to hold key positions under Vatican authority. Though his first priestly mission took place in Peru, it was in Europe where his career rapidly soared. After earning a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Villanova University, he joined the Order of St. Augustine and was ordained a priest in Rome in 1982. He continued his studies in Rome at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the oldest and most prestigious theological institutions of Catholicism. There he earned his degree and doctorate in canon law. It was precisely this formation, under the watchful eye of Roman cardinals, that made him a trusted figure within the Vatican. Later on, he was summoned to serve directly within the Roman Curia in the dicastery for bishops, one of the most influential bodies in the Church, where Pope Francis appointed him prefect in 2023. From there, he oversaw episcopal appointments worldwide. This position, reserved for those with European training, global vision, and deep loyalty to the Roman system, proved to be the stepping stone to his papacy. It was in Rome that he was educated, in Rome that he rose through the ranks, and now it is in Rome that he rules as Pope. There is yet another significant connection to Rome: his choice of the name Leo. He could have selected from dozens of traditional papal names, yet he deliberately chose one particular title, calling himself Leo XIV. a name deeply aligned with the very heart of Rome. Among all possible papal names, Leo is profoundly tied to the papacy's own power, seen as a continuation of the Roman Empire. The first was Leo I, also known as Leo the Great, who not only confronted Attila the Hun and courageously defended Rome through political acumen, but firmly established the Bishop of Rome's supremacy as the undisputed leader of all Christendom. It was Leo I who originally transformed the Pope into the spiritual emperor of the Christian world. And the last, Leo III, was the first modern Pope to claim global influence for the Church within political structures. He spoke about social rights and built a direct bridge with the United States. But most importantly, he was the first to reclaim Rome's influence in an era of democracy and pluralism, not from the altar, but through diplomacy. By choosing the name Leo, Robert Prevost is sending a quiet yet unmistakable message. He is aligning himself with Rome's historic authority, not with Peter the fisherman, nor with Francis the humble, but with the lions who roared from the Roman throne to assert spiritual dominance over the world. The next key revealed in Daniel's visions is how the Antichrist rises to power by overthrowing 3 leaders. An act that, although seemingly political, is loaded with prophetic meaning, gaining absolute control by removing any who stand in the way. And here, the crucial question arises: has the new Pope, Leo XIV, begun fulfilling this sign? Daniel doesn't mention names, but he does provide clues. These 3 kings are part of a power coalition within the global system. In this context, the 3 kings could point to 3 key figures of internal opposition: cardinals, archbishops, or even entire institutions holding firm against the coming apostasy. During his tenure as prefect of the dicastery for bishops, he was responsible for blocking, delaying, or reshaping episcopal appointments that didn't align with the synodal agenda promoted by Francis. And now, as Pope, he wields absolute control over who rises, who is removed, and who is silenced. In recent months, conservative cardinals have faced abrupt reassignments, particularly in strategic dioceses, leading to growing tensions between factions loyal to traditional doctrine and the new synodal path he inherited and now intensifies. Though an official removal of 3 leaders has not yet occurred, there is a growing sense of a gradual purge, a pattern unfolding. 3 voices of dissent may fall, quietly, without scandal, and yet decisively silenced, and the world will not notice. Yet Daniel foretold it clearly: 3 horns will fall, so the little one will rise. But when Daniel saw the little horn, he did not see a monstrous beast. He witnessed something far more unsettling: a human face. Eyes, just like yours or mine. And next to those human eyes was something even more powerful: a mouth speaking great and boastful things. Today, that prophetic vision has never been clearer. Because the new Pope, Leo XIV, is not just a theologian, he's a polyglot. Leo XIV speaks 5 languages fluently: English, Spanish, Italian, French, and Portuguese. On top of that, he understands Latin and German. This isn't merely an academic detail, it's a prophetic tool, giving him the power to speak to the whole world directly, without interpreters, without barriers, without filters. He can address Latin America as a native shepherd, speak to Europeans as a scholarly brother, connect with Africa in French, speak to Brazil directly in Portuguese, and reach Americans as though he were one of their own. Following his election as Supreme Pontiff, having taken the name Pope Leo XIV, his first message to the world was elegant, peaceful, universal. Yet his words carried a remarkably prophetic tone. Dear sisters and brothers, this is the first greeting of the risen Christ, the Good Shepherd who gave his life for the flock of God. I too wish for this greeting of peace to enter your hearts, to reach your families, and to embrace all people and every nation on earth. Peace be with you. In his initial address as Pope, he urged the faithful to become true followers of Christ, assuring them evil shall not prevail. From the very beginning, he made a passionate appeal for peace among all peoples. He also addressed the cardinals, who elected him on the fourth ballot, exhorting them to move forward together as a united church, always pursuing peace and justice, committed fully as men and women faithful to Jesus Christ, boldly proclaiming the gospel, dedicated as missionaries. The prophet Daniel further revealed that the Antichrist does not begin his conquest with warfare, but rather with peace. Yet this is not genuine peace, not the divine peace that stems from God's truth and justice. Rather, it is a false peace, surface level, alluring and deceptive, strategically designed to disarm nations and prepare the ground for global submission. Initially, he will not employ blatant force, but rather cunning and shrewdness. He will ensure deception thrives, all while the world applauds, praising him for bringing unity, dialogue, and inclusiveness. In this regard, what has occurred after the election of Leo XIV is as prophetic as it is surprising. Former US President Donald Trump, known for his outspoken nationalism, past confrontations with the Vatican under Pope Francis, and even joking about becoming Pope himself, was among the first to enthusiastically congratulate the new pontiff. It's a tremendous honor knowing he is the first American Pope. What an exciting and proud moment for our country. I'm looking forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It's going to be a very historic event. Trump's remarks carry weight. He is not simply another diplomat. He's a polarizing figure, historically suspicious of religious globalism, and yet he now eagerly applauds the man who promises global interfaith unity. The prophet says that without warning he will destroy many. That destruction at first will not be physical but spiritual, a silent collapse of truth. Leo XIV has taken hold of the papacy with a clear mission: unity, brotherhood, reconciliation, not solely among brothers in Christ, but among all world religions. He has inherited Pope Francis's interfaith agenda and is expanding it even more resolutely. In his first addresses, he has spoken of building a welcoming church that receives everyone without conditions, to move beyond what he calls dogmatic barriers and to reach out directly to the human heart. He seeks to promote a new universal spirituality, open to dialogue with all faiths. In his acceptance speech, he declared, "Humanity is wounded by conflict. The Church's true mission is no longer to set itself apart, but to heal divisions." This brings us to the next crucial sign revealed by Daniel. He will persecute the saints of the Most High. It is still too early to identify evidence of this sign. Yet, from his very first gestures, Leo XIV has clearly indicated that his church will no longer serve as a fortress of orthodoxy, but rather become a place he describes as a spirituality of dialogue, a church open to everyone, except perhaps those who cling too strongly to the word. The new pope has begun openly speaking of transcending doctrinal fundamentalism, reforming the catechism to reflect modern realities, and nurturing a new, inclusive theological language. These ideas might sound honorable, but only the passage of time will uncover the truth behind these words. And indeed, time represents Daniel's final revelation. He will rule for 3.5 years. The Antichrist's reign will not be eternal, but his power will be absolute during a short and dark period. 3.5 years, a precise number, inscribed in the heavens and sealed by God. Today, we have a new pope, a respected leader who has promised unity, reform, and inclusion. Yet, he has also begun to shake the foundations, altering moral laws, changing traditional celebrations, and sidelining believers who refuse to compromise. And now that you've heard the 7 keys, now that we've looked closely at Daniel's visions and compared them with what's unfolding today, what do you think? As believers, we must be ready. And the first step is knowing, understanding clearly, so we can recognize the signs foretold. For in Daniel's visions, there is a solemn warning, but there is also a promise. Because the book of Daniel doesn't end with the reign of the beast. It ends with the victory of the everlasting kingdom, with the judgment of the Ancient of Days, with the saints receiving God's kingdom. Amen.